morning. Good morning. It is a Friday, and let me just tell you, I think we just heard the loudest thunder ever possible right there.
And the loudest thunders of the world.
Yes, Bryce even, like the whole place shook. That was pretty crazy. Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. It is now Figured Out Friday. I told Chad, I said, Chad, I am not going to take the microphone very long at all this morning. I'm excited about Hubert being on here today. So good morning to everybody being on here from all across the country, from Seattle to Dallas to New Jersey to Charlotte, South Carolina. For those of you in the Facebook world, good morning to everybody on our Friday edition of Figured Out Friday. Today is my last day down here at Myrtle Beach. We are heading back home today, so we are packing and getting some things together. So good morning, everybody. My name is Brock Zevian, life coach, business coach, real estate agent, and a dad.
You're not Brock Zevian.
I know, I'm a dad also. So my 4-year-old is with me, as you can hear, and we are getting ourselves together here. So Facebook world, chat world, Zoom world, say good morning. Hubert, I'm really excited to hear your story. Chad spoke very highly of you. And I told Chad, I am not going to take it too long here. So, Chad, I'm going to let you take it over from here, brother. So just good morning to everybody. Hubert, thank you for your time this morning. I look forward to meeting with you again when I'm in a better position here. But thank you for being on our Figured Out Friday show. I'm looking forward to hearing how you figured it out. So good morning, Kelly, Christian, all those that are on here this morning and Facebook. Chad, I'll let you take it away, brother.
What's up, guys? Man, this country boy is excited this morning, and Sandy's probably laughing. I'm so excited to have our guest on, Hubert Payne. And, he is the drummer for Little Big Town. Sometimes we get caught up in that, but I want to tell you, he is a more special person. He has an incredible heart. He has an incredible story. And the first time I heard him speak, man, I was just drawn to him, and I knew there was something different about him, and his transparency and his vulnerability and his willingness to be used by God just to help other people is what I'm so impressed with. And look, I want him to have this entire time. So Hubert, thank you, man, for being here. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for just agreeing to get on here and really sharing your story. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, Chad. I'm really honored, man, and I'm super excited to share this morning and hopefully something that I share helps somebody. That's my hope. Okay, just go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, man, I'm sorry. I'm going to let you have it, dude. You go ahead. Take it to the finish.
All right, so first off, you got to excuse my headphones, and I'm actually on a tour bus right now. We started our tour last night in Birmingham, Alabama. So we spent about a week in Alabama, just production rehearsal. So we do that once a year where we kind of learn the show and incorporate new songs and figure out new lighting and figure out, hey, the drums are on this side of the stage now. And this is a big maybe fog or smoke happens on this song. So I'm kind of buzzing because last night was amazing. It was an incredible opening night to the tour. And we're in South Carolina tonight and then Atlanta tomorrow. And then we'll be touring all summer with George Strait and Chris Stapleton. So it's a really cool job, to say the least. But I had a moment last night. I've been thinking about the opportunity to come on Figure It Out Friday all week. And it's been just, ringing in my head like, what an interesting concept, Figure It Out Friday. And I think one of the most amazing things that I've realized in the last month or so was I don't know if we ever figured out. I don't know if I've ever figured it out in a sense. I think from all the work that I do as a coach, I'm a life coach, performance coach. I work with NFL players. I work with athletes. I work with all kinds of people. But I think the goal is not to ever figure it out, but to figure it out enough to live from the healthiest versions of you, right? To be able to figure out where your authenticity is and live from that. To be able to figure out who was I before the world told me I can't do that, or I made up some limiting beliefs of like, man, that's too much for me, or I don't deserve that, or I don't deserve that relationship, or, who was I before I was disappointed, right? Last night we had a song. We have a song called "Next to You," and I don't really come in. It's a very subdued song. I don't really come in until about maybe 3/4 of the way. The song is almost over, but we get really big. I mean, about as big as we get, and I'm just playing as loud as I can play on the drums, and everybody's kind of, shouting out this big, huge vocal. And I had a moment of right before I came in, I just broke out into tears. I just broke out into tears, and I just enough wiped tears from my face to grab sticks to come in on a big part. And I think in that moment, I realized, I know for a fact I'm walking in my authenticity right now. There are a lot of different decisions that I have to make every day. I'm a father of 6 kids. I'm a coach and a drummer. I work with, all kinds of different people, and there's always all kinds of questions surrounding me. Who do I focus on, right? Like, what part of my job do I focus on to organize my energy the best to make the most profit? And a lot of my decisions were based on what's the best business deal, what's the best use of my time. But I think when I shut the noise down, and in that moment I realized, Hubert, it ain't about figuring it out. Am I living from my authenticity? So I define trauma, and then I'll get into my story a bit. I call it the freeze. Anytime we can't have an empowered response, there's a residue, there's a posture that we assume that is not conducive to us living from authenticity. It's not conducive to us trusting ourselves and hearing that inner voice that will guide us to wherever we're supposed to be, right? So I've studied deeply what happens when we are affected, when we can't have an empowered response. So number one, we create a state of being, we're in a defensive posture to protect us from whatever's happening in a moment. And so when I look back at my life and I think about all the times where I felt like, man, I'm just not figuring it out, or this isn't going like I wanted to in relationship, it was because, I was stuck. I may have had something that happened to me when I was 15, right? And then that 15-year-old version of me is kind of leading the charge and running the ship on how I show up in relationship. But when I do my personal work, I begin to unlock that authenticity, and I understand that, oh man, okay, I'm showing up defensive because I'm not living from my authenticity. I'm choosing to live in protection mode, and that kind of blunts what I'm called to be and who I'm called to be. So I'll give that precursor. My story is pretty crazy. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I will share this part of my story. Around 27, I only moved to Nashville to play football at Middle Tennessee, and my aspirations were to be a pro football player. And when that didn't happen, I kind of felt like a fish out of water. But I realized I do love to play drums, and I want to try to build a drum career, right? So in my mind, I only perceive music as, okay, my father was a musician, and you kind of just, you meet a lot of people and you play enough gigs to make a living. And naturally, you do that with people you're in a relationship with. Now, at this time, I would only get gigs because I was in a relationship. People knew me, they would call me to play. And then that wasn't a ton of gigs, but a ton of money, but I lived within the parameters of whatever I was called to do. So my next step was I decided I'm going to go to music school. I got an information gap. Once I learn what I need to learn, I'm going to come back to Nashville and I'm going to be on fire. So I move out to LA, sleep on my uncle's couch, and I learned how to read music. Now I'm 27 at this point, so bit of a late bloomer. I learned how to read. I learned how to study. I watched other people struggle through certain things, which really helped me define my voice, see where, oh, I have a gifting in this area. Also, that drummer is gifted in that area. If I can kind of, take that skill set and add it to mine, then I become better. So I was always kind of thinking about things in a real liquid way, in a sense. So I'm always thinking, man, what can I add in my bag? Where can I be better? What are my weaknesses, right? So I finished school. I come back to Nashville, and it's hard. It's hard. I went to a concert. My friends were playing. I thought it'd be a great opportunity for me to meet everybody again and say, hey, I'm back in town, hire me. And after the concert was over, there was a random guy who came in the back door of the club, and he threatened a bunch of people with a knife. And it was almost like our energy chose each other. And he walked up to me and he put the knife on my head. And in a moment, I grabbed his arm. He didn't drop the knife. We ended up getting into a battle, and I sustained 2 knife wounds. So one in the leg, and then one, he sliced my palm wide open, and I lost control of my pinky finger. So my pinky finger was just kind of straight. And then I had to get a surgery because all my tendons were going to draw up and I wouldn't be able to play at all. But I got a surgery where the doctor was like, man, you're not going to have use of your finger again, but I can make it to where you can hold a stick, but you won't be able to play for about a year. It's going to be about a year's worth of recovery. And I'm thinking, man, I just went to school. I solved the information gap. How do I figure this out? And it was a situation where I was powerless, right? We talked about not having an empowered response. And I believe, especially as a coach, there's an opportunity when you understand what happened to you. So any trauma you face, there's 2 roads. Either it's going to create a defensive posture that's going to block you from the most lively parts of you, that's going to block you from your relationship with your higher power, or you're going to lean into it. And on the other side of that trauma is going to be your authenticity. I'm sure if you guys think about times where you've been through maybe losing someone or losing an opportunity or any kind of grieving, the only way to get through it is to feel it. The only way is to lean into it and be authentic as you can be to who you are about that relationship, and that's how you get through it. So after I got the surgery, lost control of my finger, and it's just kind of like a dead finger, right? And I'm actually left-handed, so it was very difficult. But I had to move back with my parents. My parents live in Gallatin, Tennessee, so that was a blessing. But I moved back to my parents for a year, and I just sat on my parents' couch. I couldn't go anywhere. Only place I went was to do rehab on my finger. I went from grabbing sand to clay to kind of just doing all kinds of exercises to get strength back in my hand. And it was the most amazing time of my life because I was able to take account of where am I, what happened to me, and where am I trying to go. So I compare this to I call it a bullpen moment. Like a bullpen pitcher is always warming up. They know to score the game when they're going in. They know I'm a pitcher. I'm not in the game yet, but I get to kind of assess what's happening and then go in and close the deal. And this time for me was that. I spent a lot of time thinking about my identity. Who am I? I think before this event, I identified as a football player because I spent most of my life organizing my decisions around playing football. So my identity was wrapped up in that. I took it back. And I decided that I would never make decisions based on what I do. I'm a human being, not a human doing, right? So I took that back. Then I started addressing limiting beliefs. Okay, obviously, I'm a Black dude from Detroit, but I live in Music City. They don't call it Music City because of R&B music. They call it Music City because of country music. And I use this phrase all the time when I'm coaching. I make up, because there's so much power in that. We make up so many things that limit us from our authenticity or what we're called to do based on culture or what we think before we actually know. So I made up that nobody's gonna let a Black dude, come downtown. So in Nashville, there's a street called Broadway, and it's just endless country bars of country music. And I made up that no one's gonna want a Black dude down there playing country music. But because I was walking in so much humility when I got healthy again, it was just like 1 + 1 = 2. I almost got killed. So if I can play drums again, I'm gonna go where the drum sets are. And whatever I made up, I made it up. Let's go test that. So I just started hanging out in the country bars when I got healthy. So I felt really, I was telling somebody the other day, that was the first time in my life where I went that long without playing drums. The first thing I ever did when I was a kid was play drums. And I played in the room my whole life because I was more focusing on sports, but I had never really gone that long without playing. But when I played again, something different about my playing. It was a certain spirit that came from the kit. It was a certain feel because I believe that what I've been through, people can feel it before you can explain it, right? So when I play drums, you feel, oh, it means something different, right? It's a little bit above being able to explain it, right? The sacrifice you put in and whatever you do, it will speak before you. It will walk before you. It will open doors. It'll give you a certain kind of confidence. A lot of times people ask me, do you ever get nervous? I very rarely get, I might get nervous for other people I'm playing with, but I don't I don't really get nervous because I feel honest about when I had the questions of, did you practice today? I practiced today. Did you put the time in? I put the time in. Did you go the extra mile to understand what people want from you as a drummer? Yeah, I did that. So when you check those boxes, a certain kind of confidence comes from what you do. So I went down there and I just kept asking, can I sit in for a song? Can I sit in for a song? Then I had to learn all the country songs because down there everybody just plays off tips. So you put in $20 and then play the Morgan Wallen, play the Luke Combs, play the George Strait song. So if you don't know those songs, people won't call you back. So I was able to kind of because I took my identity back from football, all of the characteristics and the mindset, I was able to see it more clearly. It was interesting because I saw it like, well, that's just a game. It's a pigskin. It's not about the game, it's about the process. I'm not the game. Now that I understand that, I can extract all the discipline that I learned from it. I can extract the competitive nature in a healthy way. And so I just used that and I started playing. Man, after a while, I was playing every night down there. That's what I did for a living when I first got married. All I did was play downtown. And then I started turning into road gigs. And then I'm like, man, I'm playing with the artists of the songs that I used to play on Broadway. Now I'm touring, and this is cool. So then the touring people become my community. And every time I sit down at catering, somebody walks up to me and says, dude, are you the drummer that got stabbed at the 12th and Porter? Tell me about that story. So it was really great for marketing as well. But yeah, so I just built on that. And going back to what I shared in the beginning, I think a lot of times we walk with so much disappointment because we think there's an arrival. We think that we figure it out at a point, and then life is smooth sailing. I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's a lot of moving parts. Having 6 children, trying to make sure my wife has her needs covered for me, and I'm traveling across the world, and also into coaching and helping people. There's a lot of moving parts, and I think it gives me a lot more grace just to say it's not about I'm never going to figure it out. That's what I figured out, and now that I realize that, now the door is open for healing. Now the door is open for mistakes, and you can't operate and perform on your highest level unless you're creative and your anxiety is low. Because when our anxiety goes up, our creativity and resourcefulness goes down. It's like a scale, right? So when I just embrace the fact that I'm not going to figure it out, I figured out that I'm never going to figure it out. I'm always fluid. I'm always learning. I'm always becoming. There's a purpose for my pain, and lean into grace, right? So I'm really excited because at this point in my life, like I said, I work with a lot of NFL football players, a lot of guys that are going pro. Hopefully in about 2 weeks when the draft happens, I recruited 40 elite college football players to come and train in Nashville, and I work with those guys on mental performance, and I'm like a social worker for football players. So I'm always connecting, whether to any kind of resource, I'm connecting them with agents and connecting them with all kinds of things, and also kind of using my gift to serve, right? So I'll speak on that really quick before I would love to answer any questions. But for me, I draw a lot of power from understanding. My goal is to organize my skill set to serve people, right? And that's an opportunity. So even musically, I practice not to be able to show everyone what I practice. I practice so when the artist I'm working with asks me, hey, can you do it more like this? Can you make it feel more like Johnny Cash? Can you lean more into the softer dynamic? Hey, can you bring the energy up here? I'm like a waiter. I can check any box. I can become anyone you want because I've practiced, and my mindset, my heart set is I learned all these skills because that's my passion. But what I really want to do is help your songs come to life. I've never had a moment, and and I'm not bragging about this, but I think it's just a testament to even trying to just walk like Christ, which is my faith, and my musicianship. I choose where I want to play. Little Big Town is great. I still play with other people here and there, but I haven't had really like links in my work where a chain is broken. There's always been opportunities because I have that mindset of like, I'm organizing my skill set. And the more I respect you, the harder I'm going to practice. That's what I found, right? You think it'd be the other way, but the more I respect the people that I want to serve, and the more that I understand, man, they had to go through a lot to write that song. And that's their voice. And I'm just going to take all my information and everything I've learned to just knock that out of the park. And I don't even need to say it. I think it resonates from the way that I play, the way that I make decisions, and it's been great. So I appreciate you guys, listening and checking into my story. I would love to, answer any questions or anything like that, Chad.
Thank you, Hubert. So anybody got anything y'all want to come off? We got just a little bit of time. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Hubert, hey, I have a quick question. How are you?
Hey,
It's good
Kelly.
to see you. Hey, good to see you, bud. I took some notes, and I love when you said I'm living from a place of authenticity.
Yeah.
And and that's to the core. So how do you each day, like, do you have something that you go to, whether it's a prayer, whether it's meditation, to really keep you grounded, especially in a season right now where you're touring and traveling, you're away from home? So to kind of keep you in that, your energy in that place of authenticity, every day in that grind, what's something that you might do that kind of helps in that?
That's a great question. So I'm a super duper nerd, super nerd. I went to an all boys boarding school where it was all the great athletes in Michigan. We would all go there every week, try to win state championships. And I'm the kind of guy, I love to watch high performers and then kind of like gather the tools. Like, oh man, that kid is going to Michigan. He walks on his toes. Okay, I'm gonna start doing that. And one thing I've learned from high performers, it's all about how you organize your experience. So what I do as a coach, I teach a playbook that I've put together from a lot of therapists that I've worked with in the past. And the way that I organize my internal environment keeps me living from work. It helps me to live from my authenticity. And the way that I organize it is, I believe that we all have an undamaged healing center. Like I said, before people told you no, before you started adopting limiting beliefs and making up things because of situations that you've been through or times where you weren't able to kind of, perform like you wanted to. And I keep in mind, it's always there, and it's always not affected by whatever's happening in my eyesight, right? It's always there. Now, what does happen, we have other parts that are into play, and parts are patterns of behavior. And I try to stay really non-judgmental, creative. I try to stay really open to hearing every part of me and understanding that I don't have any bad parts. But when I wake up in the morning, I want to take account and kind of watch my thoughts and understand where the messaging is coming from. What part is the messaging coming from? Is the messaging coming from a part who was wounded or scared or didn't ring the bell, right? Is it coming from a part who's being impatient? Is it coming from a part who was maybe a parent, a critical voice? Where's the messaging coming from, right? And what happens is, so we got that undamaged part is here. Sometimes those parts that are not as healthy or in a good place, they blend over and they kind of run the show. They blend over the undamaged part. So my goal is to kind of separate them, love on them, be curious about the history of those parts. And I don't want to get rid of it. I just want to know that it's there and understand the messaging and why it's coming up. And then that opens the door for me to do my own personal work and show up like I want to, right? You'll show up more confident and more authentic to who you are. Sometimes we can't even hear our own voice anymore because we're blended with a damaged part that's just really trying to protect us, right? So if you notice you get triggered in relationship with people, that's you don't want to get rid of that part. That part's only trying to protect you. It's just being overworked. And you know that you're in that state a lot of times when some of the symptoms of knowing that, like, oh man, I'm operating from a part that needs some work is you'll have like automated responses before you even realize, oh man, I responded like that, right? That's how you know we call it blended, when you're blended with the part. And so the work is to separate, spend time with it, be a compassionate witness to the history of that part, sit with it and respect it and just love on it, right? We all want to be, I use felt, seen, and heard all the time. We all want to be felt, seen, and heard. So the way that I organize my internal environment is I make sure my parts are felt, seen, and heard. That way they're separated, everybody's operating effectively, and then I have access to that undamaged healing center. That's a long answer, Kelly, but that's what I try to do. And coach.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Hubert. I appreciate that. I always love hearing from you.
All right, guys. Great. It's 8:44. Hey, Hubert, thank you, man. Thank you for agreeing to come on here. And your heart is amazing. And that's what I'm getting a lot of these chats over here. Your heart, your servanthood. Man, that's what people want. People want the real you. And God blesses who he created you to be and not who you're trying to be. That's not authentic. Right. And so I saw that and I felt it, just like you said, I felt it before you spoke it when I first met you. And I appreciate you. I appreciate our friendship, some of our future endeavors together. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on and sharing. Guys, thank you guys for joining in, tuning in. I appreciate it. This has been a true blessing. And in the chat, we've got how you can follow Hubert. So be sure to do that. And I guess that's it, man. Guys, have a great weekend. Hey, you in my part of the town, Hubert? South Kakalaki.
Hey, you're supposed to be coming to the show, buddy.
Man, I might have to rearrange some stuff and ease on down there to. I think you in Gamecock country though. See, I gotta.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, hey, love you, man. Take care. Everybody have a great day. God bless you, and have a great weekend. See ya.
Thanks, everybody.